Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. John Purchase, Shay Holland, round number 6 of live action here from the Modern Regional Pro Tour Qualifier from Darksphere in London. We're almost at the final stretch.
We are.
We had 2 players at 5-0 who we didn't pick them because they were likely to draw. There was a bubble match of 15 versus the 12 points. There were actually only 3 people on EXO, and obviously, unfortunately, the 15 point will have to play, but he has a loss to give and should be able to ID him from there. But he'll play that. That's Jun versus Boggles. The top table will just straight ID. In terms of what we have table number 6.
Yes.
12-12, so both on 4 and 1.
Yep.
They're around the bubble. Winner should make top 8. Loser will unfortunately be fighting out for some booster prizes in the top 24. We have a very interesting match. We've seen one of the decks on camera a reasonable amount of time today. The other one, not yet. We have on one side of the table. We'll send it down first. I want to show our players. On one side of the table, we have Jared Laverick-Stovin on Jund, and he is against...
He's against Oliver Frith, who is playing Red-Green Tron.
So, players are just shuffling up. We'll have that opening 7 in a moment. I'll just go sort the camera out.
So, Red-Green Tron, for those who don't know the deck, its whole plan is to, quite simply, make a lot of mana and put a big creature or planeswalker into play. So he is running one Emrakul the Aeon's Torn, who is a 15/15 for 15 mana. As you can see on your screen here. It also has the abilities of Can't Be Countered, which is sometimes relevant.
Pretty good. It's a pretty good ability. Not so much in this matchup, but
not so much in this matchup.
Definitely a good one to have. Oh.
It also, once you cast it, you get to take an extra turn, which is
yeah, untapping
with
a 15/15. Annihilator 6. So
it has flying, protection from coloured spells, Annihilator 6, which is whenever it attacks, defending player sacrifices 6 permanents, and if it would be put into your graveyard, you shuffle it instead. Yeah.
And you shuffle your graveyard.
You shuffle
not just Emrakul, it will be your whole graveyard. But we see the Jun deck on the play, turn 1 Thoughtseize, taking Khan Liberated, leaving a hand that, well, not a lot of action. An Expedition map, a couple of pieces, and over a Ancient Stirrings, obviously we're going to see here, and Oblivion Stone, but no Tron pieces. Obviously we're referring to Urza's Mine, Urza's Power Plant, and Urza's Tower. And when you put all 3 of those together, each on their own only makes 1 colourless mana. The Mine and the Power Plant make 2 if you combine it with the Tower, which makes 3. So you can make 7 mana on turn 3.
Once you've got all 3 of them out, your Mine and your Power Plant both tap for 2 each, and your Mine and your Power Plant tap for 2 each, and your Tower taps for 3 colourless. So here we see he got the
Tower.
Yep, the Tower on turn 1, into Mine on turn 2.
I'm going to be testing your knowledge here, sir, because my knowledge of the different arts of Tron lands not as powerful as yours.
Mine
apparently
is not as powerful either, unfortunately. I'm just hoping he's not playing the Tower that's the Mine that's secretly a tower.
Although that one's
it's
easy.
the Tower that's secretly a mine. It's a mine.
Oh yeah,
but it looks
like a tower. Yeah.
I really dislike that. Ooh, it's an expedition.
Wow, expedition.
Overgrown
Stomping Ground. It's an expedition stomping ground. That, and we see Chromatic Star. So he's going to play that. He's going to play out a map, which will obviously fetch up the last Tron piece. And unfortunately, Jared not doing anything.
Unfortunately, not. No, Oliver is just going to be making turn 4 Tron. Bit slow.
So we see Huntmaster of the Fells.
I think he is more than happy for a Huntmaster right now.
So one of the interesting things is obviously you've taken the Khan. Doesn't necessarily leave Oliver with anything, and it depends on how he draws from there. Obviously, I'm assuming he's just running the straight 4 Khan Liberated. You get to cast it on turn 3 sometimes. 3 Wormcoil Engines, also a very staple thing. 1 Emrakul, Spell Skype, but then the 2 cards that you don't normally see.
The Ugin is really good in this matchup, and you know it's one of those cards that's so really good because you get to just Wrath the board. Comes down, Wraths the board, and you know against this sort of
And also one of the things in Modern is they can't. Very few decks can actually deal with an.
Oh, it's a worm coil engine.
So that's obviously he's managed to find a piece. One of the things that you notice with the decks being played in Modern is they really struggle to deal with Ugin. It can't. Planeswalkers generally are very difficult to deal with. There's no Hero's Downfall. Very few decks play Dreadbore. But obviously the other one piece of this deck, well, especially Medic, the other piece that's important is the one of
Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger.
so the
New card from Battle for Zendikar.
Mythic Rare from Battle for Zendikar.
10 mana. When you cast, now this is a big thing about the Eldrazi, is whenever you cast them, you get their trigger. Not when they come into play, which is very good. Indestructible, obviously, and when it attacks, the defending player exiles the top 20. Not mill, exile. So, yeah, even chumping Ulamog, doesn't help, as it turns out.
And an indestructible 10/10 is pretty big.
Pretty hard to deal with as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing that Tron has an advantage in these reasonably, like I say, fair matchups against the Tron players always want to play against the Rock deck because they can beat you up with powerful spells and stuff like that. So we see a Tarmogoyf into play. They do a quick counter. We've got land, sorcery, artifact. So we've got 3 at the moment, which is good. So we have a 4/5 Tarmogoyf. So obviously there's something in the graveyard that we can't quite see at the moment. It's Planeswalker because there's a Karn Liberator from the Thoughtseize.
Yes.
So Wormcoil Engine, quite good on this board.
Yep.
If we're honest. And we see an Oblivion Stone in hand as well.
I think we're going to see a Pyroclasm taking out this.
Yep, take out the Huntmaster and the
plus man.
Yep.
Plus wolf. So
And then obviously the Tarmogoyf can then trade with the 3/3s, but you're not winning that. You can then trade with the Wormcoil Engine, but you're not winning that one.
No.
If you're forced to start chump blocking this early in the game, and they're at 16, Oliver's they're at 20. And one of the fascinating things also about the Tron decks is they do very little damage to themselves.
Yeah. And in fact, they don't actually have any way to do damage to themselves in their main, unless they're playing Spell Skites or Dismembers, because they just don't need to.
Right. And then that's one of the powerful things about the deck is that so we see the Pyroclasm cast off of the chromatic sphere, and I'll get these right. I will make sure I get the chromatic spheres and chromatic
You can
stars
tell the
right
difference
way
because
around.
one's a sphere and one's
What's
a star.
Oh, okay. Well, you do.
Pro tip.
Pro tip. You do learn something new every day, and we see another tower come down from Oliver, tapping 5 mana. I'll put my
Make an Oblivion Stone.
Make an Oblivion Stone. I'll see he gains 6 from the attack from the Wormcoil Engine. We're going to see Abrupt Decay target the Oblivion Stone. Abrupt Decay doesn't hit many things in the Tron deck, but the things it does hit are things like the Oblivion Stone. He's going to blow up the board. No, he's going to put a fake counter on it.
On his Wormcoil Engine.
So if he draws another one.
So if he draws another one, he can blow everything else up.
Yes, he can blow up the world. So we see Scavenging Ooze off the top. We seem to have a Lightning Bolt in Jared's hand. Not quite the
Don't
card
really
he needs
think
at the moment.
This matchup is going to go very well, unfortunately.
And this is one of the struggles for the Jund deck is it's playing very powerful cards, don't get me wrong, but when you're starting to cast 6, 7, 8 mana spells, including Planeswalkers, you know that your deck's just doing something over the top. And the Jund deck, this is one of the things it can struggle with is going over the top struggling to go over the top of the deck. Now, Tarmogoyf we have a 6/7 Tarmogoyf.
Yes, we're missing Enchantment and Tribal.
Yeah, so
as it turns
it's
out.
pretty big, and we see the Scavenging Ooze in as well. And past the turn, this is so. We see another star off the top, but tapping for multiple mana a turn means you can tap, use the Chromatic Star, play another one, crack that, and just try and draw some more cards.
I think he's just gonna probably crack this for green, draw a card, see what it is. Oh, it's not what I needed. I'm gonna go fetch Eye of Ugin.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play my Eye of Ugin, and I can start. So Eye of Ugin is colorless Eldrazi spells, cost 2 colorless less to cast, and then 7 colorless. Tap and search your library for a colorless creature card, put it into your hand, shuffle your library. So this allows you to fetch your Eldrazi, like
your Ulamogs
and your Wormcoil, your
Wormcoil Engines,
Emrakuls.
your Emrakul.
It also allows you to search up your Wormcoil Engine, Spellskite if you need to.
Oh, wow, yeah, that is true.
And if you're running it, Sundering Titan.
Yes, and that is...
Unfortunately, there aren't any Sundering Titans in this game, so we're not going to bring it up.
That's
But
unfair.
it's something that is seen in the sideboards, or even sometimes the main. It's a very, very powerful card against both Jund and Grixis.
Yeah. So we see in with the team, we see another Scavenging Ooze follow. Unfortunately, Wormcoil Engine races these Tarmogoyf very well.
I mean, I think you just fetch Emrakul here, right?
Yeah. And we have 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 mana. We have 12, 13 with the pieces. We're fetching a Ulamog.
No, he's just fetching a Ulamog.
Oh, yeah. And
He probably
Jared's
doesn't want to reveal the unknown information of the
Emrakul. But would you rather not hide the Ulamog, or would you rather hide the Emrakul?
I think Ulamog is almost a
guaranteed card.
Guaranteed card. You're going to be running one of the two Ulamogs. Either one is lethal. So I think that's why he probably went for that.
Yeah, because obviously you can destroy the untapped creature and just attack for 6.
Yeah.
Jared obviously been 4. So, a very, very swift victory on the back of a Wormcoil Engine. And one of the problems Jund has is with Wormcoil Engine. It doesn't have Path to Exile, which the Junk decks have. And obviously Path to Exile is a very good answer to Wormcoil. You don't get the 3/3s afterwards. But moving on to sideboard, we'll start with the Jund deck. Obviously, in the main, he has the usual Dark Confidant, Tarmogoyf, Thasiga, Huntmaster, Fells, Scavenging Ooze, which you saw, 4 Liliana, 2 Colligan's Commands. Obviously, Colligan's Command not too bad in this matchup, the ability to destroy the artifacts. But generally, the thing he's now looking for is the sideboard cards. He does have 1 Ghost Quarter in the main.
Yep.
Which certainly doesn't hurt. But the sideboard cards, which he is obviously looking to bring in here, we have 1 Hero's Downfall, which is not a bad card at all.
No.
It kills the Planeswalkers.
Very interesting as well to see it in Modern. It's not a card that's seen often in Modern, as it's 3 mana to kill a creature or a Planeswalker, which isn't always the best.
So, obviously, the main ones that stand out from this is you probably win the Hero's Downfall in. You have 3 copies of Fulminator Mage.
Yep.
For those of you who don't know, Fulminator Mage, 1 hybrid black-red. Sacrifice Fulminator Mage, destroy target non-basic land. And, well, the Urza pieces are all non-basics.
Yep.
But the one card that he is wanting to draw is only a 1 of in his sideboard. New one from Battle for Zendikar. Crumble to Dust.
Yes.
Just exile your Urza's piece and take every other piece out of your deck. You can no longer achieve Urza-Tron.
Yep.
Urza-Tron as it's referred to as when you get them all together, but for those people, all 3 pieces of the Urza's pieces.
This one is interesting. I mentioned this briefly earlier today. In the Tron Mirror, the fact that this has Devoid means it has no colour, so it can be found from cards like Ancient Stirrings. If you cast Ancient Stirring and find this, you get it. You get to actually keep it. And, you know, that's something that that's the problem with the Tron decks, is some of their hate, most of their hate in fact, is a colour. So you can't search for it for Ancient Stirrings, whereas Crumble to Dust can be found. So interesting that Jared is running Crumble to Dust over Sowing Salt, which was the original.
Sowing Salt being 2 red was coloured red
yes,
and did the same job.
It did, yeah. But we will see. The problem with this matchup is if Jared doesn't draw his hate early enough, it won't matter. Yeah. If Oliver has out 2 of each piece, then Crumble to Dust doesn't actually do anything anymore. So,
because once you've got 2 in play, you can only get rid of one of them. You can't exile them. You can't exile both from play. You can only get them.
Sideboard for Oliver, we have 1 Void Winnower, 3 Rending Volley, 1 Vandal Blast, 1 Pyroclasm, 1 Thragtusk, 3 Nature's Claim, 1 Feed the Clans, 1 Wormcoil, 2 Spellskite, 1 Ghost Quarter. So in this matchup, I like bringing in the Thragtusk and the Wormcoil Engine. Probably taking out something like the Pyroclasms. They're a bit weak here. I mean, sure, they kill Fulminator, not Fulminator, they kill Scavenging Ooze, they kill Dark Confidant, and they kill the Huntmaster, but I don't think they're good enough. I think you just want to be going completely over the top instead of trying to. You don't want
to give your opponent any chance. But we see we're on to game number 2. Raging Ravine.
He's got Natural Tron in hand, so.
Oh, wow, that's pretty good. So right now, Jared is going to need a turn 3 Fulminator Mage, and then spin the wheel on which one he wants to pick. So turn 2, we see a Tarmogoyf. So it's a 0/1 Tarmogoyf. The most powerful of Tarmogoyfs. We see Sylvan scrolling off the top. So again, he's able to find the pieces if any are destroyed. So Natural Tron as well, so good if you can find it early on as well. We see him crack the star, make green mana.
I believe that is Natural Tron. I'm trying to work out.
Well,
I can definitely see the power plant and the mine.
We're definitely going to have Natural Tron. We have a Sylvan scrying on turn 2, having drawn a Ghost Quarter, which obviously Ghost Quarter good against the Jundex because you can get rid of the manlands, which can be problematic.
Yep.
So you can't Ugin them. You can calm them, but then you're not hitting whatever else is in play. So we now have a 2/3 Tarmogoyf in one turn, and we see the untap. We pass back. Now, can Jared find one of his Fulminator mages? Because that feels really important to have right now. So we have an overgrown tomb into play untapped, down to 18. So we have a 3-mana spell. What's it going to be? Or we have a 2-mana spell with something. We're going to see a lightning bolt target you. Make my Tarmogoyf into a 3/4 and in for 3. You are now down to 15 points of life.
But I mean, you know,
So sorry,
Oliver's untapping with 70. It was 7 mana here.
Yeah, and we've got a Worm Coil Engine ready in hand. We can see the tower into play. Worm Coil to follow up with.
A Worm Coil. Sorry, he didn't actually have natural Tron. That was a mine he has in hand. It's the artwork that looks a lot like a tower.
It's the hidden tower.
Yeah.
So we're now going to see Ancient Grudge. It's not a bad one at all.
Not a bad one.
If you can untap and say crumble to dust his opponent, it feels
good.
Pretty
yeah.
good. So we now have creature. So it is now a 4/5 Tarmogoyf. And if he can hit crumble to dust now, it feels like he's in a very good position. He just needs to actually hit something. So we see another land roll off top. We have Abrupt Decay in hand. Abrupt Decay. It's not bad. Gets rid of the Death Touch one.
So does the Ancient Grudge flashback. But the problem is, you know,
that's a lot of cards.
Jared's literally just used two cards to deal with one from Oliver, and you know, I say 2, but one of them has a flashback. If that card did not have flashback, that would be a 3/1. Yeah, that would have been a 3/1, and that's what's so powerful.
We've got double Khan liberated as well.
Hand.
So 8 mana in now, and this is the power.
And I really like this play from Oliver. Instead of playing out the another Tron piece, he's decided to play his
Ghost
Quarter. And why is this really important? Because crumble to dust. If Jared tries to crumble to dust one of his lands, he can just Ghost Quarter in response. He's fine at this position, Ghost Quartering one himself, because he can still fetch up that missing piece. But
he also has a Khan in play.
And he has a Khan in play. It's...
And that's one of the powerful things. Like you say, Ghost Quarter doesn't just do your own things. And obviously, the Crumble to Dust has to target a land, and if the land doesn't exist...
Exactly. It doesn't, you know, he's just...
So, see Scavenging Ooze. We're going to see the Khan just removed because he has another one in hand. He's going to exile something, get rid of the Worm Coil Engine, get a bit of land, get a bit of health back, sorry, go up to 19, and we could just see another Khan.
Well, I mean, I don't think his life total is...
No.
He's either dead or not.
And now he's going to get rid of the Abrupt Decay in hand. Jeez. Khan all the way up, and we see... Here we go. It's the Mine Tower. It is the mine. It is a mine that looks like a tower.
Oh, and he's yep. He was about to play out the Oblivion Stone then, and then realised that it was probably a very bad idea.
Unfortunately, Jared draws another land.
Although Jared does have out 2
Raging Ravines.
And so he can start going beat damage.
Yep. Man it up.
Put him to 6.
Yep.
You know, right now Jared doesn't really have anything. Oh, there we go.
So Ghost Quarter the land, gets a bit of baiting out of it. Obviously, the good use of it. I think he's realised by now that Jared doesn't have anything in hand.
No.
And now the Khan can take care of the other Raging Ravine, and Jared's outs are rapidly diminishing. So
indeed. Unfortunately, Oliver doesn't have any green mana for the Ancient Stirrings in his hand. However, he does have out a Khan that is going to get rid of this.
Khan gets rid of the Raging Ravine. Oblivion Stone into play. A bit of protection can also make the Khan so it can be targeted. We draw for the turn. Another land off the top. And they see the extension of the hand. Oliver, a quick 2-0 win over Jared. Now, what we're going to do, I'm going to leave you in the booth for 2 minutes. I'm going to see if we can set ourselves up another feature match after this, because this is quite quick.
Yeah, so this was, unfortunately for Jared, this is a very, very tough matchup for Jund. The Tron deck just goes over the top completely, and you know, most of the cards it's playing, so, well, not most, but like the cards it's playing, like the Worm Coil Engine and the Khan, are always going to be 2-for-1s. You know, you're going to exile a land with Khan, or you know, stuff like this. And as we can see, he brought in the Worm Coil Engine and the Thragtusk. Interesting to see what he actually boarded out. I didn't have a look. I didn't get a chance to see, but you see Jared boarding in 7 cards there, and unfortunately, just not enough. So we will hopefully be getting another feature match going. That was unfortunately over incredibly quickly because, yeah, unfortunately Jared just didn't really have anything. And we see Oliver will see something else. So we'll just I'll bring you to the event screen while we set up another match and be back soon.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to midway through round number 6. We have another feature match area.
Yes.
We've managed to source some people going into game 3 who are, again, 4-1. This is game number 3. We've got Stuart Wright back on camera. He's against George Burrow, Junk, Living End.
Yes.
Sending out to feature match area. They'll be going into round 3. And we should hopefully be able to give you another round of action here. And hopefully one of these players will soon be marching on to 5-1 to the top 8. And we have 25 minutes left on the round, so this will either be very quick or very, very short. So we have both deck lists in front of us. So obviously we're in game number 3, so both players will have sideboarded. So just going to shuffle up for game number 3. So wow, that's I've just read the bottom card of his deck. We know it's good in standard. Instead of a Sorin Solemn Visitor, Stuart Wright is playing 1 copy of Gideon, Ally of Zendikar.
Excellent.
The 4-mana Planeswalker that generates 2/2s. Again, a very good strategy within these junk decks is making a lot of tokens against the 1-for-1 removal decks, and it's just another way of incremental value. Making a 2/2 every turn, and also sometimes beating for 5 as well. A main deck Curse of Death, these are sideboard cards obviously, including Curse of Death holds and stuff like that. So in terms of sideboard, we had 2 Damnation, 3 Fulminate Mage, 3 Feed the Clans, 2 Unravel the Ether, Curse of Death Hold, Path to Exile, 2 Bitter Blossom, and a Gideon, Ally of Zendikar. Now, against Living End, none of these stand out as all-stars. Fulminator Mage isn't bad.
Fulminator Mage is about it.
Fulminator Mage is not bad because it does go into your graveyard, and you get it back, and you can go from there. So 1-1, we
I
see.
could potentially see him maybe bring it in something like Damnation as well.
Yep.
Wrathing the board off for a Living End, forcing them to have a second one.
Yep.
Also gets his own creatures in the graveyard, so when a Living End goes off, he gets some of his guys back. But there we go. So you mulligan to 6, keeping 3 lands, 3 spells, and I think
One of them's a Fulminator Mage.
I think he pushed the card to the bottom.
Yeah.
So
So
He's on the play. There we go.
So we've got Deadshot Minotaur, we've got a couple of lands, so he's got his cycler already, so George is going to pass the turn. Stuart, right, quickly fetch. let's get at least my Tarmogoyf to a 1-2, which will soon be a 2-3, obviously, with Living End cycling. Living End basically revolves around the cycling mechanic, which is you tap a mana of certain colours, discard the card, and you get to do different things. Most of the ones within the Living End deck allow you to draw another card, so you're putting, well, some reasonably embarrassing cards.
I think these were 15th pick draft commons and uncommons.
Yeah,
I
so
think that was.
let's
have a look at
give you-
Deadshot Minotaur, for instance.
let's give you an idea of some of the cards that are being brought in by the Living End deck, and just to give you an idea of the sort of thing the deck's trying to do, we have Street Wraith, pay 2, draw a card.
Legacy playable, actually.
Legacy playable.
Legacy playable.
We have Deadshot Minotaur, a 5 mana 3/4. When it enters the battlefield, deal 3 damage to target creature with flying. Cycle this, draw a card. We also have a Pale Recluse. Now, one of the things you'll notice about all of these cards is, well, they're rather large by modern standards. A 4/5 is pretty big by modern standards. Tarmogoyf's pretty big, but a 4/5's huge compared to when you're normally hitting people like 2/1s and stuff like that. But the deck revolves around putting a load of creatures into its graveyard and then resolving one of normally 6 or 7 cards.
Yeah, so it relies on cascade spells that cost 3. The cascade spells being Violent Outburst, the other one being
Demonic Dread.
Demonic Dread.
So Violent Outburst is slightly better because it's instant speed and you don't need a target.
Correct.
So Violent Outburst is creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. Cascade, you don't need a target for that. Demonic Dread says target creature, and its sorcery says target creature can't block, which is why a lot of the Living End decks run a one-of Dryad Arbor. It's something you can target your own Dryad Arbor.
Yep. Or they used to run the Forgotten Orchard as well, to give them a guy.
Yeah. And basically, Cascade. You can only Cascade into a single spell pre-board, especially pre-board. Sometimes they have some nice things in the sideboard. You can only... So obviously in George's deck, he only has one thing you can have a Cascade into.
Yes.
You'll notice that all the cyclers are very expensive cards. Fulminator Mage is 3 mana. None of these can be cascaded into. We cascade into Living End. And Living End doesn't cost a mana, but when you cascade into it, it counts as costing 0 mana. Living End is black. You can suspend it for 3 for 2 black, and sometimes you have to play in Living End. Each player removes all creature cards in his or her graveyard from the game, then sacrifices all creatures he or she controls, then puts into play all cards he or she removed this way. Basically, sometimes it's, for Living End, a one-sided Wrath effect, where you put all of your stuff that's in the graveyard, your big 4/5s and all of that, back into play.
Yep.
And they put all of their stuff that's in play into the graveyard. And we're going to see, get a look at George's hand here, and that is stacked.
He's got both Demonic Dread and Violent Outburst. I think he's got 2. Oh, he's got 2 Violent Outbursts, 1 Demonic Dread.
So I think Stuart might be separating these out. He'd love to be able to take the forest.
You're probably going to keep these 3. The least scary card in your hand looks
Beast Within.
I guess is the Beast Within.
That might be the type. You could put the Fulminator Mage into the bin, but it's going to come back anyway.
It's coming back anyway.
So you're looking at taking one of the Cascade spells, or you're looking at taking the Beast Within. You're a little bit too. This is one of the interesting things of discard spells versus Living End, is how good are the discard spells. It's a hand like this. Discard spells looks horrible because you're not taking anything that you really want to take. Sometimes he'll only have 1 Violent Outburst, but then he might have 3 cyclers, and he draws through so many cards in the deck to find it. But at the moment, there's 3 3/4s in the graveyard, but Stuart's going to have a markdown. Remember what's in there, and sometimes you have to cast multiple times. He's going to have a look at taking it, but let's see what happens. So Stuart will not be enjoying looking at this hand at the moment. It's definitely not pretty.
Yeah, it's. If you're Stuart, you are definitely not happy seeing this. If your opponent's hand, he can't get him off green for the Fulminator. He can't get
him off green for the Cascade spells at the moment.
Yeah,
which is the small problem.
with Fulminator he can't get him off
the
second green spell, green source or anything like that.
But he's going to take the Fulminator Mage.
Interesting.
So he's in with the Tarmogoyf, dropping George down to. Well, the Tarmogoyf's to 3/4 at the moment. Well, he's got land, creature. Then we know there's the Thoughtseize, so there's a sorcery in there.
He's drawn one of his Living Ends, but
so
I don't think he matters.
How many Living Ends does he have in the deck? Is it the 3 or 4? 3 living ends, so there's 2 more in there. The deck doesn't normally play somewhere around 3 living ends because you only ever really need to cascade into one of them, and drawing them is not very good at the moment.
Yeah.
But Stuart feeling a little bit under pressure. But there is a Fulminator in his own graveyard, so he's not completely dead. But George able to do this all at instant speed and feel good. There is a line where Stuart also abrupt decays his own Tarmogoyf just to get it into the graveyard in response to the violent outburst.
Yeah, and I can see that being quite a good play, actually. You know,
If he has the abrupt decay, of course.
if he wants it, if he has it, yeah. I think he needs to actually. Oh, there's a Siege Rhino.
Yeah, don't want to be tapping out for that one, but George is going to pass the turn back, and then he's going to. Oh, interesting. So he's going to beast within the land. That destroy.
Yep, that works.
Yep, destroy target.
Permanent.
Permanent. They put a 3/3 into play, but it's permanent. So it can do it. Lands, creatures, enchantments as well. This is how it is. One of the cards that allows you to win through Blood Moon and Splinter Twin and stuff like that as well. Because the 3/3 they get, well, eventually it's going to end up biting the dust somewhere at the bottom of your graveyard.
Yep.
Responsible living end. So we see a Tasiga, we see a Siege Rhino. That can't attack. That unfortunately is summoning sick, but in for 4. George down to 9. So he's passed the turn back, and George is probably starting to feel a bit more confident. We can actually see the Gideon in their hand as well. So George has his hand. He's drawn another land, but at the moment he's got some cyclers in the graveyard, and he's got the Fulminator Mage there as well. So he's probably feeling in a reasonably good place right now, and George might be very soon forced to fire off that the violent outburst, because taking another hit means he's dead to the beast within. But like I say, we just got to force George to use that violent outburst. So we're going to untap, draw for the turn. We drew the 4th land, which is really important. So this is 4. Oh no, it's before combat. Don't want to take any damage. So 3 mana, violent outburst. Let's flip the deck over until we hit living end. So we've got 1, 2, and there's a living end.
There it is.
Not very far down. Cast living end. Get rid of that Get that Tarmogoyf out. Exile that Tarmogoyf. It all goes back in a random order. Quick shuffle up, and then let's put some spells back into play. Now the benefit Stuart has is he's able to cast his Siege Rhino. Now, oh no, he's going to Fulminate a Mage straight away.
Oh, and this is during
In
combat as well.
Wow.
So you can't actually cast this Siege Rhino.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to have the 4 mana.
Yeah, so unfortunately for Stuart, not quite able to keep his mana online, but he can probably cast that Tasiga now. There's probably enough stuff in his graveyard that means he can cast the Tasiga.
Yeah, I think he does get to cast Tasiga. Not sure if he needs to. But it's... So let's see what George will... See what Stu will do, I guess.
Yeah, it's still, I mean, still Stu's turn. That living end was pretty good, being able to play the Fulminator as well. We see Tasiga as the follower. Now Tasiga can block successfully all of these creatures in play. Apart from the Street Wraith, because the Street Wraith has the keyword Swampwalk,
Yes.
so that can still attack.
Yep.
And we shall see where he goes from there. And one of the interesting things with Tasiga as well, if he's able to hit his 4th land, he can start milling stuff into his own graveyard. With Tasiga, Tasiga can start turning over creatures into his own graveyard, which could be very interesting against the living end deck, because we know that George has more copies of another copy of Violent Outburst, which will result in the 3rd copy of the living end if we get to that point.
Yeah, George also needs to be very careful attacking, because he might just die to a swing back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those Deadshot Minotaurs are only 3/4s. Tasiga is a 4/5. So
we see another land off the top for George. Not found any more cyclers, unfortunately. So, how does George want to approach this turn? I think you have to attack with the Fulminator, with the Street Wraith. You've got to win the game at some point.
yeah, exactly. And right now, Stuart's not really got...
He's not really doing anything.
No, but, you know, George isn't winning the game at this position. And he needs to. So, I think, yeah, just attack with the Street Wraith. Pass the turn. Probably chump a Deadshot Minotaur.
In with the Street Wraith. Be interesting to see if Stuart decides to. I mean, we're on Fulminator Mage for Stuart. Obviously, not doing very much at the moment. George has hit 5 lands. Obviously, no more cyclers. But see from there, was that a land? No, it was another Tasiga. So in for 4 with the Tasiga. George is going to take 4 down to 5. And we'll see what happens from there. Obviously, Stuart still has the blocker in the Fulminator Mage. You can make the most of it. Deadshot Minotaur doesn't have tramples, so the block and the sacrifice will always still work. But we are going to search for land. We see Curse of Death Hold still in the deck. So that actually came in from the sideboard.
Interesting.
So
I guess just his idea is to just make George's creatures slightly smaller.
So Stuart at 10. Now, a very interesting point that someone has just made on the chat is that Demonic Dread says target creature can't block.
Yep.
Cascade is also a may trigger with the casting. You may cast without paying its mana cost. You don't have to cast your Living End. You can just put it back on the bottom with all your other cards for something not to block. Stuart at 10 at the moment. Another hit from the Street Wraith means that he can do it from there. So, what do you have in hand, George?
It's not a major. Oh, you may cast.
You may cast it without paying its mana cost.
You have to cascade, but you don't have to cast the spell.
Yeah, so it'll just then get shuffled, and then it'll get shuffled back under the bottom of your library. So,
apologies, the
George
camera
having
might
a think.
have just gone down for a little second there.
So in for 3 with the Street Wraith. Stuart down to 7, and at the end of the day, we could just see the Monstrous Carabid being hardcast.
Yep.
The other lesser known part of the Living End deck. Hardcast my 4/4s and 3/4s. See a 4/4 into play. Stuart, a wry chuckle there. Right. Draw for the turn. It is a Tarmogoyf. It is not a land.
No.
So, how does Stuart want to proceed with this turn? You feel he's got to attack. He's got to try and win, but he can only attack with the Tasiga. There's no Abzan Charms or Dromoka's Commands in these decks, so it is just a 4/4.
It is.
If he was able to cast the... Well,
the Tasiga's a 4/5.
The Tasiga's a 4/5. See the Tarmogoyf. So pass the turn, and this Demonic Dread is not going
lethal.
to single. No, and this is fascinating. We see a Street Wraith. But he's going to have to attack. We shall have to see how this one goes. This is close.
Yeah.
Like, Stuart being at 7 is a lot different to any other number. But, I mean, Tarmogoyf's a 4/5. Also, that Monstrous Carabid has to attack. So he's going to get to eat the Monstrous Carabid. It's part of its rules, it has to attack. Double check quickly. Yep, Monstrous Carabid attacks each turn if able, and it is able to attack this turn. So he's going to get to eat the Monstrous Carabid. In for 3. Stuart down to 4. Look at his hand of Siege Rhino. But he's now in a position where if George doesn't block one of his 2 4/5s, well, if he draws a land, it's his. If George doesn't cast anything, it could be lethal.
I think if I'm George here, I think you're going to have to suspect something like this. So I think he's going to play out his Street Wraith that he has in hand. And then he can just block everything. Because he still has the Demonic Dread and stuff to combo.
So, Stuart 4. We see a Street Wraith cast. Untap. Draw. That is what looked like a land. So now, I think Stuart goes, right, attack. I don't have a 4th land. Hide the 4th land until the last possible moment.
Yep.
He's gonna have a go. He's gonna have a think about it.
And I think if you're George, you just have to block everything here.
Yep.
You can't risk it.
Stuart gains life anyway, which is helpful. And he's going to force both of these Deadshot Minotaurs to block. Well, he might not. That's going to be the thing. It's him going to... He's only going to go to 6 life.
I think if you're George here, and your opponent's attacking with everything, you're suspecting something. You're suspecting some sort of trick, so you have to block. And you know that even if all of your guys die, you are okay. because
You've got Demonic Dread.
you do have the Demonic Dread and the Violent
the Street
Outburst.
Wraiths, it doesn't matter. And unfortunately Stuart, because he drew a fetch land, and he's going to extend the hand. It has a fetch land, which unfortunately means he can't get out of range. It only puts him to 6, not to 7, which would be out.
No, because I think he would have had to have fetched a...
Yeah, so it puts him to 3.
No,
He's had to fetch a duel.
I think he would have had to have fetched a shock. So it would have actually put him back at 4.
Yeah, that's
at
true.
which point he's dead to both of the...
Yeah. So, congratulations to George Burrow. Goes to 5-1. Stuart, 4-2. Probably out of top 8 contention. But George, well, he might be in. And we can see some of the cards coming back out that were in the sideboard. Damnation did come in. Obviously, George brought in Shriekmaw, which is very interesting. Can be very good, obviously, the thing. But we can see a lot more cards coming in for Stuart than we saw for George.
Yeah.
But we'll bring it back to the booth. See our lovely, happy, smiling faces. And that brings to a close round number 6 of feature match coverage here from the Modern Regional Pro Tour Qualifier. 1 round to go to decide our top 8 for this season's Regional Pro Tour Qualifier. And it's been a day of some very interesting things. We've seen lots of different decks.
Yep.
We've seen the Sublime, well, to the outright ridiculous in Suicide Zoo. That deck was incredible to watch. I think ridiculous in what it was trying to do. Living End has been starting to pick up in play a little bit recently. A few more people are starting to toy around with it.
Yeah, it's kind of come
it
back
comes in and out.
Yeah, it's one of those decks that people play it, and it does well because no one's expecting it. And then the next tournament, it just can't ever win a match because everyone's jamming as much Graveyard Hate as they possibly can without completely killing themselves. And then, again, people go, okay, there's no graveyard-based combo interaction decks. I guess we don't need this
Living End
anymore.
again.
And we'll play against something else that's a really bad matchup. And then people play their combo decks again, like Living End, and do well. And it's interesting. So.
And one of the interesting things with Living End as well is that against a lot of decks that we've seen on camera, it's actually reasonably good against. It's not a terrible matchup against Tron, because it can do a lot of end step.
Yep.
So you go Khan, you're like, okay, you've Khan my thing, and now I'll put 18 power of guys into play, and then you're dead.
Exactly.
Or put 3 Fulminator Mages into play, and Fulminator Mage, obviously, 4 Fulminator Mage in the deck obviously gives it quite a good game against a lot of things. And plus against things like Jund and Junk, without the Jund Charm, which a lot of the decks aren't running at the moment, or Junk without Rest in Peace, something like that, it's very hard to...
They can't run Rest in Peace though, can they, with their own Tarmogoyfs?
And Scavenging Ooze we didn't see any copies of, and they're able to overpower those decks. But against things with cheap count spells like remanding a Living End, and ladies and gentlemen at home, if you are watching, do not remand the Cascade spell, always remand the Living End. Don't remand the Cascade, don't do the Cascade spell, because the Living End will still resolve.
Have you ever done that?
Cascade. No, I've almost done it, and then gone, no, it's fine, you can resolve this, and then I'll Izzet Charm your Living End. But that's a lesson that we have all learned or seen the very hard way of learning it. However, that brings us to the end of round number 6 of coverage. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back for round number 7, the 7th and final round of Swiss, before the cut to top 8 and 4 finals of this season's Regional Pro Tour Qualifier. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully we'll see you again in a short while.